Well, welcome again to Manna Moment. And boy, it just seems like we were just here last Thursday and we were talking to single moms and some of the challenges that single moms have. And I told you then that I also wanted to interview some single dads and some special challenges that they have also. And I am just very excited to do this interview. I am sitting with Perry Billington. He's a friend of mine. I've known Perry for, we were just talking about it just before this, I think 14 or 15 years. And Perry is one of those guys I just have mad respect for. He is a great guy, a humble guy with what I would just call a lot of horse sense and common sense, and I love that. And he has a unique story in that his wife passed away when his daughters were very young. And we also have the privilege of having his daughters with us today. And so we have Allison with us today, and we have Bailey with us today. You guys can wave at everybody there. And I just want to tell you up front, this is a story of love, a story of grief, and a story of hope. And so let me just start by sharing with you when I first met this family. I first met this family about 4 or 5 years after their mother had passed away and after Perry's wife had passed away. You girls probably don't know this, but I'm holding a picture of your mom and the two of you, and I'm sure you have seen this picture before, and we'll put this picture up a little clear where everybody can see it. Beautiful woman, and of course, two beautiful kids here. And but Allison was, when I first met them at another church, I think it had been about 4 years since their mother had passed. Allison was in the fifth grade, and Bailey would have been in the third grade. And so I've had the privilege of watching these girls grow from then into the beautiful women that they are now. Allison finished school and she's living in St. Louis and medical sales, right? Are you in medical sales, Allison?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you went to MU?
Yes, I went to Mizzou, graduated 3 years ago,
Yeah,
so it's been a
yeah.
little bit
Went to
now.
the good school, and that's great. And then her sister Bailey followed in her footsteps as well. And you are graduating this year, right?
Yes, I am. Kind of. Whatever it works. But I am graduating.
And also Bailey went to Africa with us a couple of years ago, and that was a lot of fun. And so let's just kind of get into this and walk us through your story. Perry, I'm gonna kind of start this off by, and you may not even remember this, but sometime after I first met you and got to know a little bit about you and your situation, you told me how much you loved your wife and told me that she was the best. I know I'm right out of the blocks. I'm bringing back memories here, but you told me how much you loved her and you told me that you would never remarry. And you said that you had a job to do, and your job one was to raise your girls, and you wouldn't even let the thought entertain your mind until you knew they were grown and gone and taken care of and have a family of their own. And then you even made the comment, and even then, you didn't know if you would because you loved your wife so much. And um, so I was I'm just going to be honest with you. When I heard that for the first time, I walked away from the conversation saying, "Well, that's grief talking.
That's crazy.
That's probably not going to happen." But here we are, all these years later, and you're a man of your word. And my goodness, have you done a great job of raising these girls? But share with me a little bit about your wife and when you say, "I just loved her so much."
Well, she had a big personality. She had the greatest smile that I've ever seen in the world. And she's a very outgoing person, very sociable. She's a great mother. She's rural area. She had I'm from a small town. She's from a little larger town, Lebanon, but just hard worker. She's college educated as well, and it just had a lot of attributes that I was looking for. And then, you get into marriage and dating marriage, and you just fall in love that much more, and you appreciate them that much more. She was a wonderful, wonderful lady.
That's great. If you could name just one thing that you really remember about her and maybe miss about her, what would that be?
The back and forth. We was ornery with each other. We like to tease, and the girls will tell you that I'm all about teasing them and joking and carrying on. If I'm the first guy to call them stupid if they're doing something stupid, but I'll turn around and tell them how proud I am of them.
And you have nicknames. You have nicknames for them too. Allison is who?
Alamo, and Boo.
And how did they get that nickname?
How about them share that with
How did you guys get that nickname? Allison, Alamo, and Bailey is Boo.
So, Rick, this is a funny story. I was almost 11 pounds when I was born. And my nickname at the time was Big Al. And my dad decided that his little girl was not going to be called Big Al. And so he called me Alamo. And it's been that since.
All right.
My story was I had a pre-K teacher, and I think she always just called me Bailey Boo Boo. And then as I got older, I just wanted to shorten it because being called Boo Boo when I'm 10 wasn't cool. So now it's just Boo.
Okay. Well, I like those nicknames. I may have to start calling you. That's probably only reserved for your dad.
No,
that's everybody. Okay, so let's start with Allison first, and then Bailey, because Allison, you're a little bit older. You're old enough to remember when your mom passed away, right? Okay, tell me some of your memories of your mom that you can remember, some of the earliest memories.
I really only have a couple. I remember, kind of when she was sick. I would say that is majority of them, unfortunately, because I was 5 when she passed away. But from all the pictures and videos we've seen of her growing up, she just seemed to be like such an outgoing lady, cared about us so much, just like a big heart, wanted to take care of everyone. So that's
okay. And then I know people are going to wonder, how did your wife pass away?
She had a form of ovarian cancer. She was only 29 years old, and we were we moved to Houston, Texas. We'd been down there about 4.5 years. No family down there. We both working pretty, the old jobs, 50, 60 hours a week. Girls is in daycare, and she started dropping a little bit of weight, and we was concerned, but back then we thought it was just stress, because we're both working so many hours, and we got young kids and everything. It's just us. But she woke up one morning and she wasn't feeling very good, and we went to the emergency room, and they pretty much opened her up, and 2 hours later come out and told me that it wasn't good.
Wow.
So they said pretty much 6 months to a year, and it was 6 months after the fact. So
wow.
But, and 20 years ago, cancer treatment has come a long, long way, as from then. But I remember specifically asking the surgeon in the emergency room and said, how could we have not known that, or she not seen that? And he said at that time, it could have been in her system up to a year prior to that, undetected.
Wow.
So, but again, since then, they've made a lot of strides in the ovarian cancer world, and the girls are really up on that.
So I'm sure they're getting tested, the markers and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, wow. I mean, that's a lot within 6 months. So, and I know that grief never really goes away, but it's been, 20 years now. Yeah. Take us back to that time where now your wife, and I tell me your first name again, I'm sorry. Kimberly. Yeah. Kimberly has passed away, and what are you thinking you get these two little girls, and what's going through your mind at that time? Is it just so overwhelming?
I did when I first got the news. I remember because she was still, they was keeping her for a few hours, and I went out in a car and I did what every grown man would do. I called my mom.
Yeah.
So I called her and told her what was going on, and she reminded me, to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we did move down there, and we hadn't gotten into church that time, and I'd gotten away from church myself from preteen years, and college and all that stuff, and so it was rough, and her mom, fortunately, the girl's grandmother, she worked a government job in conservation department, and she had 30-40 years in, and she had a bunch of time. So with her help, I'll give her credit, she'd fly back down and forth, and my main goal was taking care of the girls, and she could kind of sit in the hospital and take care of her daughter, but it was rough.
Was there ever a moment, Perry, where you thought, I can't do this?
I didn't say that. I wondered if I could.
Okay.
But and then as time went on, the feelings started coming back about God, faith, religion, and
so
and the old what was the song, Steps in the Sand. I can't ever remember that.
Yeah.
I was with you, and I started thinking.
So as time went on, God started revealing himself more to you, so that you realize, with God, I can do this.
Yes.
And that reminds me of the verse that with men it is impossible, with God all things are possible.
I agree.
So Allison or Bailey, or either one of you or both of you, when's kind of the earliest time that you can remember that we don't really have a mom, and that kind of hits you that our mom is not here, and we have a single dad raising us, and how did that make you feel? Like maybe your earliest memory at school or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'll go. I guess the first time it really hit me was for when our elementary school, in kindergarten, we had a day for moms and dads. So it'd be donuts for dads, and then they'd have muffins with moms. And every time that would come around, but in kindergarten, I remember being very much aware of the fact that, I didn't have a mom, and my dad obviously offered to come with me, and he did come with me every time I wanted him to. But it was still that feeling of, it never really fully gets replaced, but it's something, that's happened to us. And
I would say mine was a similar experience. On Mother's Day, you make cards and crafts and stuff when you're in school to take home. And ours was always like for our grandma Barb or our grand, ours was never mom. And then the PTA moms coming in and volunteering and like bringing the cookies on the birthdays and the cakes was kind of when I was like, oh, this is a little different. Other people aren't like me.
Right. So it kind of made you both feel a little out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a fifth grader and a third grader at that time, or even grade school, middle school, high school, that feels that same way, that feels a loud place? Maybe they've lost a dad or a mom, and maybe not even to death, but maybe even, again, as we talked about last week, single parents. What advice would you have for them?
I think the biggest thing that helped us was surrounding ourselves with friends and families, whether it was through church or through school, who understood and were there to talk about it. Like I was very fortunate to have friends. If there was scenarios where I was uncomfortable, or my friends' moms who kind of like stepped in certain places. But I think the biggest thing is just, we prayed a lot. I know I prayed a lot about it growing up, to not feel different. And I think that was my biggest concern, was that somebody would meet me and know that I was different, and you're not. There are other people out there who have lost a parent, who other circumstances, and are in single parent homes, and you're not the only one. And I think that's the biggest thing.
I would probably say the same thing too, to know that there's other people out there who have gone and experienced a lot of things too. And while yours is super difficult, it's just, praying, like Allison said, I think those nights or the mornings, the nights before the muffins with moms, I think I'd always have a big prayer cry or whatever I needed to do. And having that peace always, that prayer always gave me more peace, I think, than anything. But I would tell him to try that, do pray, but also just, talk about it. Talk about your parent, even if you don't know them. I have no memory of my mother, but talking about the things that I do know about her to others, it makes me feel, like I still have a mom. She just might not be here. So
Yes. Yeah.
We had several discussions about how God had blessed us for still being here, and there's some kids out there that didn't have any parents at all. No mother, no father, no relatives or anything. So, and they took that real well, being as young as they were.
So as a single dad, Perry, what are some of the unique challenges that you faced? I guess say some, a lot.
A single dad with two daughters.
With two daughters, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't.
So you have to be both dad and mom, and some single moms have to be. We heard it last week. A single mom had to be both mom and dad.
Right.
That's not an easy thing to do.
No, the challenge was for me. I mean, we could do all the guy things or the dad, quote unquote, things. We did the sports. They involved. Made sure that they was always involved in anything they wanted to. They was involved in sports and everything. But the challenge was the girl things. We had to call a grandma or an aunt or somebody or a friend. Okay, how do we do the makeup or how do we braid the hair and the nails and all that stuff. The conversations of growing up and everything that was all handled within the three of us. But I got to brag on them. I mean, they had to come of age and mature a little bit more, maybe faster than a lot of their friends, because they was learning how to run a laundry machine and how to dust and mop and everything and vacuum at very, very early age, I would say probably 7 and 8, so.
And you're still so well adjusted. I don't know how that happened.
yes.
Yeah.
But again, in the conversations like they both alluded to, coming home, they'd hear the stories about how one of their girlfriends did something with their mom, and it's special stuff like that. And, I just told them, we're doing as much as we can, but you're going to have to understand it and get through it.
Yeah. I would like each of you to talk about, and we probably have about 8 minutes left. It goes by fast. Again, every interview I say, man, we could talk for 2 hours. I've got a couple more things I want to cover, but I'd like for each of you to talk a little bit about how your faith has helped you get through this, and not only get through it, but still get through it. Because I know I've talked to enough girls and guys that there's still that sense of loss. Like it could have been. What would have been like if? And so talk to us about how your faith, girls, helped you through this, and then Perry, you talk about the same thing.
I would say with my faith, as kind of figuring everything out, I think having that relationship with God allowed me to let all my feelings out and talk and understand where I was at and try and see what God had in store for me with this, and seeing the life and path that it would take us. And I remember so many church camps I'd go to, and that was always, the question on my heart for the week that I wanted to ask and figure out from God. And I think through this is our relationship with Christ. I mean, we started getting into church after a couple years after, our mom passed away, and whether that not be the reason why or here and there, but I think growing in my faith, it made it stronger because I felt like I had more of a connection to it and felt like it was more of an understanding for me. And just seeing a lot of women too in my church that I could look up to as role models, that helped a lot. and not being able to go to church and having my faith, I wouldn't have seen that and respected that as much.
I think for me, my faith has really provided a support system. I think just because I was a little bit older than Bailey when it happened, not that I had a lot of memories, but I had a couple. And I think I had to play a bigger role being the older sibling. You know, I had to help out, kind of help keep things organized around the house, help some talks I had, and then share my knowledge with Bailey. And so I think for me, you know, praying and growing up in church, it provided a support system for our family. It provided unity for us, but it gave me extra strength, I think, knowing that all this was for some reason and some bigger purpose. And I don't know as though this would have been easier to understand and go through life if I didn't have a relationship with God.
I'm the same way. I mean, there were some very, very tough times, and I got pretty depressed on several occasions. And, you know, just kept on thinking about God and going through the Bible and praying, you know, please get me through this, you know, help me. I know you're there. And then, you know, you get past that, and an hour later, you know, you sit there, what are you whining about? You know, you're blessed with what you've got. You know, you've got so much, God's with you. And it just made my faith stronger in that regard, you know. And you just, every year and every day and decade goes by, you try to become, like we all want to be, a better Christian.
Yeah, that's great. You know, one of the reasons I just talked to Manna Fellowship and those watching, one of the reasons I was really excited to do this interview is because there may be a lot of people that are going through the same thing. And at the time you're going through the storm, you think the sun's not going to shine. And I was excited to do this interview because you can fast forward 20 years later and see how God has blessed this family and see that, yes, why there's challenges, why it's hard, you can get through it. And we see living proof of this. And so I'd say if you're going through something like this and you haven't taken that foundational step by putting Jesus Christ first in your life and accept him as your Savior, boy, we'd love to talk to you more about that. And you can email me personally at rick@mannakc.com. Very simple, rick@mannakc.com. And we'd love to talk to you about that. We're going to do one last thing here, and I'm really going to put you guys on the spot. Perry, I want you to tell everybody in our audience how you feel about your girls and what you would want them to know about your girls. And then I'm going to ask you girls to do the same about your dad, what you would want the audience to know about your dad and how you feel about your dad.
Well, like I said, I've been blessed with them. So the joke with me and my family, you know, Perry didn't have a wife where the girls could run to and play us off of. He was the final answer, and whatever they got, my answer was their answer. So they had to live with it. But they're hard workers. They've studied good between sports, school, and church and activities. They didn't have time to get in trouble. You know, we was all tired and everything, but nobody had time to get in trouble. They have kept God first and foremost. I will say that for them, you know, with few slight altercations, but I'm very proud of them. I'm as proud as any parent could be of their own children, you know, but I'm not any prouder than somebody else's of theirs, you know.
Yes.
But they turned out good kids with what raised
Great girls. Allison, you go first and tell us what you want people to know about your dad and how you feel about your dad.
I think my dad, everyone says that their dad or their mom is like their superhero to them, but my dad actually really is. As I've gotten older, you know, and started working and then trying to keep up with my life and them and our family and everything, I don't know how he did it, taking care of us and a job and all the things we got to do. Never once did I feel like we were shorted in any way because he literally did everything. And I'm so proud of him and thankful for him.
If I had to say something, I'd say that my dad is the most kind, big-hearted person I have ever known. And I am so thankful for everything that he's done for me and my sister, but also for all the people and lives that he's touched with them. And I think that he's the most humbling and modest man, but he is truly amazing and awesome and never lets on to how much he truly gives for others. So
I really appreciate you coming in. I hope this is a help and encouragement to other people. And I want you to know I'm proud to know each one of you, and you guys, this family is an inspiration to me, and it's a testimony to God as to what God does when we put him first in our life. And when we seek, as Matthew 6:33 says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, all these things shall be added unto you. As you all have attested to, you've been blessed greatly, even in a very difficult time that would have knocked a lot of people down. And you guys are still standing, and not only standing, but thriving. And that's what Christ does. So thank you so much. And we'll give fist bumps. We'll end this with fist bumps since we're in the Corona. All right. We got it. Good to see you all. Talk to you later. Bye.